So, hey, inside of the Haitian-American networking group, I am seeing a lot of individuals. And with those specific individuals, I think there's a lot of potential for individuals to network. In my humble opinion, I feel as though depending on who you're around, depending on the individual that you network with, it can be a turning point. So I want to kind of just provide you with my background per se, and talk about what was my turning point, per se, because things started off for me very, very, very rough per se. Um, my family decided to come here to the States, and when family decide to migrate from other countries, specifically Haiti, to come to this specific state, a lot of individuals in my family, my mom, when she decided to come to the States, a lot of the individuals that were still living in Haiti, those specific individuals were very happy per se, and they were very happy because they feel as though, okay, now I have someone that's going to the States, and that person has the ability to provide me with additional resources. So for them, it was kind of like a lottery ticket per se. So because it was a lottery ticket, there was a lot of pressure on my mom. And when we moved here to the States, we moved here to the States for a better life. So we moved here to the States for a better life. And when we moved here, we moved in with a family, with a family member. So that specific family member, when we moved in with that specific individual, it was uncles and cousins. That specific individual was living in a 1-bedroom apartment. So you think about one room and then 1 bedroom. And inside of that specific 1-bedroom apartment, there was already 5 other people living there. So when my mom and I, we moved in, there was the 7 of us living there. So 7 people living in a 1-bedroom, apartment per se. So the idea is that there's supposed to be 1 living room and 1 bedroom. However, the living room itself had beds there. It wasn't a living room. It was essentially, a bedroom. So when we did that, when that first happened, the first thing I thought to myself was that, okay, I don't remember just being in such a cramped space when I was living in Haiti. So the first thing I thought to myself, okay, well, perhaps maybe this is not, a better life per se. So that was the first thing that I observed. The other thing that I observed was that my mom, we grew up in a small town called Belgrade. My mom was working in the cane field. She was working in the cane field outdoors, doing pretty hard work, to be honest with you, waking up very early in the morning, coming home very late, and kind of just out in the field, trying to get it, trying to, put in as many hours as she possibly can to go ahead and try and provide for us and her, for me and for her, for the rest of her family. So that's the other thing that I observed. So very hard work, very early in the morning. She come home very dirty, very funky, not necessarily a good look. The other thing that I observed was that it was seasonal, right? So this was a seasonal work. She didn't work year round. She worked for a certain number of months, and then she would go months without work, right? So, very, very, very little resources there. The other thing that I observed is that she would always be on the phone with people, back home in Haiti. And those specific individuals, right, they had expectations. And those expectations was, okay, when are you going to send us some resources, because we do not have the resources we need to make things do. So, here in the States, she has very minimum resources. I mean, we're living under, not very, very, very bad conditions, but we're living in a confined space. From a resource standpoint, we had very, very, very little resources, and that was very obvious, because not only was she working seasonal, the other individuals in the house, they were working seasonal work as well. So it was just very, 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 very little resources. And I started to kind of just walk around and say to myself, man, why do I have to have it, so rough? So I thought it was just me and my immediate family members that had things so rough. Until one day I was speaking to a friend of mine, and that individual indicated to me that, hey, Vladimir, I just had a very embarrassing moment. And I asked him, okay, what was that specific embarrassing moment? He said he went down to the local government office, him and his mom. He went there to interpret for his mom, because his mom did not speak English. Their goal when they went to the local government office was to receive, food stamps. That was the mom's goal. For whatever reason, the mom's application was incomplete. Because the mom application was incomplete, it was denied. So the application was denied, and the mom started to cry. The mom started to say, you know what, I do not have the resources to feed my family for the rest of the week. So the mom started crying, and the caseworker at the time said, hey, there's nothing that I can do about it. But she decided to kind of bring her manager into the situation. And when she brought her manager into the situation, the manager decided to, under those specific circumstances, approve the mom, right? So approve the mom, because the mom was saying, hey, I don't have the resources to kind of just move on. There's no way I can go ahead and feed my kids for the rest of the week. I really need this food stamp. So food stamp got approved. And when this specific individual told me this, he said, man, I was so embarrassed, man. I didn't realize that my mom had it so bad. So for me, it was at that time being around that specific individual, because I was connected to that specific individual. I was very young, but it created a it created a change in my mindset per se. And at that time, I said, you know what? I am here in the States. I feel as though I have opportunities that my parents will not have because they won't have the same access as I have. I will do the very best that I can to not have to repeat this exact same cycle. I know one day that I'm going to have kids, I'm going to have a family. I don't want them to go through this exact same thing. I thought this, so hey, I'm going to be in a place whereby I have a lot more resources and I have a lot more opportunities. So for me, you know, although things were very rough, I started to kind of just look up and say, hey, I can do better. These are the things that I'm going to do to try and make things a lot better for me and my future family per se. So for me at that time, what that thing meant for me was that I was going to go to school and work hard and then get a good job. So essentially, I was able to accomplish it. I was able to kind of just go to school, and I was able to get myself, you know, a decent paying job, you know, per se. So I accomplished that. But for me, that was just part of it per se. I started to kind of just look and say, okay, what else does success look like? So for me, when I started to kind of just think about it and kind of just look around, I started to kind of just define success differently. And my definition of success kind of changed, and it changed to, okay, people who are successful, they have businesses. So that was my next thing that I wanted to kind of just conquer. I wanted to say, you know what, I want to go from, you know, someone who had a level of success as it relates from an employment standpoint. I want to be an individual that have a certain level of success with business. So that is when I went on this business journey, and I worked with a developer to launch my first, you know, my first business website, which is called, you know, Admire Dance. But, you know, essentially, you know, things just, you know, once again, things started off rough. And I think the turning point for me was because I was around a specific individual, and that specific individual experienced something, shared that thing that individual, he shared that thing with me that he experienced. And that created a shift, a mindset shift for me to kind of just look at things, you know, differently. So essentially, that's one of the reasons why I believe in networking. I believe in surrounding yourself with certain type of individuals. And when you surround yourself with certain type of individuals, those specific individuals can provide a sense of inspiration per se, which is why, you know, with that said, I'm inviting you to join the Haitian-American networking group. There's going to be a link somewhere on this page. You can go ahead and click on that link, and the link will allow you to go ahead and join the group, because I feel as though, you know, the right connection could bring in, you know, endless possibilities. So essentially, what I wanted to do is kind of just provide you with a brief intro of, you know, some of the things that kind of just allowed me to have a different mindset or shift per se in life. And in the future videos, in the next video, what I'll do is I'll talk a little bit more about, you know, my first business adventure, how it went, did it go well, did it not go well, and some of the things that I've learned as it relates to business, and some of the other connections I've made and what those connections have done for me, you know, as well. That's my time. I'll see you in the next video.